This program is sponsored in part by the National Catholic Society of Foresters. Hello again and welcome to Looking at Social Justice. I'm Jim Grant, and it's now the 52nd chance for me to meet someone who works in the San Joaquin Valley in some area of social justice. One program we've never done is something especially about asthma. Some guest I've never had is Kevin Hamilton. Kevin is the executive director of the Central California Asthma Collaborative, and I wish Kevin would introduce himself with some more detail over your experience in this field, Kevin, and this work that the collaborative does here in the San Joaquin Valley.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thanks for the invitation today. My name is Kevin Hamilton. I'm a registered respiratory therapist working here in California. I've been a respiratory therapist for 37 years now. I started out working in trauma centers, both in Los Angeles and up here in the San Joaquin, finishing my career at Community Regional Medical Center as director of the Asthma Education and Management program there. I spent a few years working in community health centers and have spent a lot of my career, if not my entire career, working in underserved communities with folks who often don't have good access to health care.
Now, we know that asthma is bad, but how bad is asthma, and how is the collaborative basically set up to address the issue that we're going to talk about, Kevin?
So the Central California Asthma Collaborative was first established in 2009 by a group of people who were concerned that disadvantaged communities especially were falling through the cracks in expanding new ideas about asthma and new medical therapies and new programs that could better address the problems they were having day to day. That group included myself, some folks from UCSF, from the County Public Health Department, and from Cal State Fresno. We formed CCAC and developed what's called the Asthma Home Visitor Program, which eventually became the asthma impact model that we use today. This program is based on the precept that healthcare starts at home, in people's homes. The average patient only interacts with the healthcare system maybe 12 hours a year. The rest of that time, who's taking care of them? They're taking care of themselves. So, and where are they doing that? At home or at work. So this is where we need to focus our interventions. Unfortunately, the conventional healthcare system doesn't reimburse for those kinds of services. So we had to develop other strategies in order to not only pay for those, but develop training for folks who were going to do that kind of work, and really establish this as a best practice. In the late 90s, the CDC put out a bulletin about this type of program stating that this is a best practice model. This is a model that should be used whenever and wherever possible, and it is the most likely to have the greatest success in bringing down the complications related to asthma as a disease. So that was very helpful for us. We were part of that at that time before we were CCAC. This program was started by myself and some colleagues at Valley Medical Center,
Wow.
for those who can remember,
Yeah.
in 1992 in the pediatric clinic there. And several people that I remember so well who have left us now, Dr. Joan Boris and Dr. Enoch Lona. Without those two champions, God rest their souls, to have moved this ball forward, these programs would never happen. So I really felt I need to give credit to that as well. Over the years, we've continued to address this disease, and unfortunately, we've simply seen an increase in people who are sick with it. So while the folks that we're able to interact with often have improved lives, reduced ER visits, don't miss work because their kids are in school now, so they're not losing educational opportunities. The number of patients that are out there are outstripping our ability to provide this care for them, certainly, and creating a huge burden for the healthcare system in both the emergency rooms and the primary care offices. So how bad is it really? It's bad. It's bad. We have in the Valley some of the highest asthma rates in California. So the rates in Fresno, for instance, sit right around 18-20%, so about 1 in 5 kids, about 1 in 6 adults. As you move down the valley, it gets worse. Hanford right now has the highest rate in the San Joaquin Valley at 37% of children, according to the Department of Public Health 2016 data. So that's ridiculous, because California rate is only about 8-9%. And that rate has climbed here in the Valley from down around 8 or 9% in the early 2000s up to where it is now. In some ways, we've gotten better at tracking the data, but you can't explain this whole thing by just data inaccuracy. This is real. People are experiencing this in their lives every day. You almost can't talk to a group of families or go into a classroom, as I do at times, and ask who in this classroom has asthma or knows someone who does, and you'll get the majority of the class raising their hands. Parents will tell you, oh yeah, my sister-in-law's kids have it, or my kid has it. We've taken it for granted. This is not common. The national rate is only around 9-10%. So, we've just kind of taken this for granted here in the San Joaquin, and that's unfortunate.
How does it affect differently children from adults, Kevin?
So it does present very differently quite often. Children normally start developing what we call early childhood wheezing, or doctors will call it reactive airways disease, or you'll see it in kids from 1 to 4, 0 to 4 will have this cough, can't really be explained. Often happens when they cry or they get excited and run around. For most of these kids, that's going to fade. Over 80% of them by the time they're 6 years old. Another group, though, within that will continue to have those symptoms, and slowly over the years, if they've got it when they're teenagers, they're probably going to have it continuously most of their lives. The most common form of childhood asthma is what's called exercise-induced asthma. Exercise is a form of stress on the body, so NIH classifies this in with infection-induced asthma, because if you have an infection, obviously it's stressing you as well. This is the kind of asthma that is really tough for kids because it can limit their activities in sports, like play, social interactions, creates a lot of stigma, embarrassment for those kids. So they often try to hide the symptoms. So destigmatizing that has been a real goal for me personally over the years, and for my colleagues I know as well, and for our program. Because the disease is totally controllable in children. When you're talking about EIA, as we refer to it, exercise-induced asthma, controls for that are really pretty simple. And we're happy to talk to anybody about those, and people should talk to their primary care physician about that as well. The other form of asthma that's a little less common but is out there is, of course, allergic asthma. That's, I think, most people are familiar with that. You've got an allergy to, let's say, the cat. Walk in the house with the cat, eyes swell up, start coughing and wheezing, you've got allergic asthma. So the real focus there is identifying the allergen and avoiding it. Worst comes to worst, there's desensitization, or shots, as people say, allergy shots that people can get. Again, it's completely treatable, and in most cases, with proper management, symptoms can be reduced to practically nothing. Our thing with kids is get them in, get them treated, treat them continuously. So quite often parents will stop treatment because the treatment works so well. They think that the kid's fine, and they really don't want to keep their child on medication. You understand that. I have 4 children. I have 13 grandchildren now, and I still feel that way about all of them. So it's normal to feel that way, and I'll tell my patients that, the parents, this is going to happen. Don't feel guilty about it. But if it comes back, then don't hesitate either to come and say, this is what happened. It came back. What do we do now? So that, again, is part of the stigma, right? So that's always a problem. But again, the majority of these kids that we've experienced and I've experienced in my career have been able to participate fully once they're on the program in any sport they want to. Famous athletes have asthma, severe asthma. I used to use Dennis Rodman, for those who remember him, as an example because he was such a bizarre guy, dyeing his hair purple. It's severe asthma.
Wow.
Severe asthma. A number of football famous quarterbacks have had asthma. Steve Young, for example.
Right.
So people can have asthma and still rise to the height of their profession, whatever that is. But they have to recognize they have it and buy into the treatment plan. So, like anything else, it's just maintenance of effort. It's work that you have to do. You're assigned. You didn't ask for it. I sometimes tell kids it's like homework. I'm sorry, you got to do it. You want to get the grade. But and with adults, it's different. So adults often had it as children. They're in that group that was, under 10, 12 years old. Their parents told them they have it. They kind of remember it, but they grew out of it. Nobody grows out of asthma. Just to be clear, it doesn't happen. Okay, it's a genetic disease. You've got it for life. You may not have symptoms for life, but you've got the disease for life. It comes and goes. We're not sure exactly why. Medical science hasn't unlocked that. We do know that exposure through the air or through food or through other kinds of environmental exposures or extreme stress can bring the symptoms back on again. So we have seen that happen. That's well documented. The literature is growing on that. Links back through this stress to obesity and diabetes are being discovered. That work has been published now over the last 10 years. Some of the really great work's being done right here in California at UCSF and UCLA. So some really amazing stuff. Again, if people are interested, we'll give you contact information at the end of this. Feel free to email us or call us, and we're happy to share that information. Or if people like to read medical publications, we'll send those to them as well.
Why don't you take a moment, though, right now, Kevin, to mention some of the ways they could be in touch. We'll do it again, but it might be good to mention your website, your email address, even the phone number, even now. Let's do that.
Okay, so we're Central California Asthma Collaborative. You can Google us. We actually will show up, our location and everything, pretty much in the valley now, almost at the top. We are at 4991 East McKinley Avenue, Suite 109. That's 4991 East McKinley Avenue, over by the airport, Suite 109. We do have an office in Tulare, one in Merced, and one in Bakersfield. Our phone number is 559-272-4874. That's 559-272-4874. Our website is centralcalasthma, right? centralcalasthma.org. We're simple people. And our social media is @CalAsthma. So you can contact us any one of those ways. We have an email address. It's admin@centralcalasthma.org. So you get the Central Cal Asthma pieces. Once you got that, you pretty much got us anywhere you search for us. So admin email gets checked daily. So, and if you wanted to talk to me, my name is Kevin Hamilton. You can put kevin.hamilton in front of @Central California, centralcalasthma.org, and you will get an email directly to me, and I'm fine with people emailing me.
I'm really glad, Kevin, that we actually, in the middle of the show, gave this chance for you to let people know the many ways you can be reached. But also, what was an eye-opener, I must admit, you're not only in Fresno, down the street from us, where we meet monthly for our equity group that wants to look at the issues of the environment. We meet at your headquarters. But you're in Merced, you're in Tulare, you're in Bakersfield, which is to say you're all over the diocese. So we want to thank you for what you and the collaborative are doing up and down the San Joaquin Valley. So getting back to some more questions that you
Sure.
have for me to ask, how do I know I have asthma? How does asthma affect me? Or did we kind of look at that, but do you want to give us a little bit more?
So that's a great question. How do I know I have asthma? I love that one because there's a lot of myths around asthma. So, and it's mostly about denying that you have it. So, if you have bronchitis, people love the word bronchitis, which is actually not a disease. It's a symptom, but okay. We've been writing it for so many years in the medical field in the diagnosis line that it's kind of taken on a life of its own. But it really means a swelling in the tubes in the lung, right? That's what it is. So, or an irritation or swelling. If you have that 3 times a year, you probably have asthma. Okay? If you have a chronic cough that seems to hang out, then go away for a while, then come back, you probably have asthma. If you have allergies, your nose gets plugged up and your eyes water, and you wheeze a little bit, you have allergic asthma. You don't just have allergies, you have allergic asthma, okay? Is 99% sure.
Wow.
Okay? No one's diagnosing anybody over the TV here, but you really should see your doctor and confess that you do have this little wheezing in your chest when whatever allergy is ticking off at that point.
Wow.
So you can see there's a number of ways that the disease presents. If when you run or walk very quickly or climb stairs, you find yourself at the top and you're not just short of breath, but you hear wheezing in your chest, you probably have asthma, okay? So you may have exercise-induced asthma because you don't do that a lot most likely, so you don't know it, right? If you don't exert yourself a lot, you're probably not going to find that out. By the way, asthma is not just wheezing. The most common asthma symptom is, what do you think it is, Jim?
This stuff that you get all clogged up, and you start. If you don't wheeze, you're all.
I'm not going to let you bury yourself anymore.
No. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's cough.
I was going to say cough.
You should have.
I should have.
Simple is always better in medicine.
Coughing.
People expect doctors quite often to come up
Wow.
with these fantastical diseases they might have because they've been looking up all their symptoms on the internet. The reality is most people are getting sick with really garden variety things.
Yep.
Ear infection, sore throat, there's a virus of some sort, maybe strep at the real extreme edges, but so with asthma, it's the same thing. It is a simple disease. There is nothing complex about asthma itself. It's been around for ages. Unfortunately, it's more prevalent now, and especially in this area. So it's important not to overcomplicate this whole idea. And I think, again, the message that I want everybody to receive and understand is this disease is completely controllable. So you will lead a normal life. And most of that control really involves a little discipline in your life.
Obviously, the air pollution in the valley is just part of our lives. Like you say, we get used to it. You also said asthma, it's so prevalent in the valley. Are these intimately related? Is one causes the other, or what?
So a good friend of mine, Dr. John Balms, who sits on the California Air Resources Board and is the Dean of Chest Medicine at both Berkeley and UCSF, said to me recently, Kevin, you could probably reasonably say at this point that air pollution does cause asthma. I'm still not comfortable saying that. The links to causing the disease, causing any disease, are very different than triggering symptoms from the disease.
Yeah.
So it's really important to separate the two things out.
Yep.
So what I really focus on is asthma is triggered by irritation. So anybody around who doesn't think air pollution irritates your lungs? or your eyes or just you in general. So it actually drives stress levels up, interestingly enough.
Oh, yeah.
So people will be more irritable. It can trigger migraine headaches in people. That's been well established. Migraine is the number 2 chronic childhood disease. A lot of people don't know that.
Wow.
Asthma is number 1, but interestingly enough, migraines, we had some residents do a study of the Fresno Unified School District kids, and surprisingly to us, that came up as number 2, ADHD. Asthma was number 1, and ADHD, I'm sorry, was number 3, but migraine was number 2. So, which is unfortunate because it means a lot of young people are out there suffering from chronic headaches. But at any rate, air pollution has a number of health effects, one of which it will trigger people with asthma. And the pollution that does it the most often and severely and regularly would be in the wintertime pollution we have here, what's called PM 2.5, or particulate matter, 2.5 microns, about 1/30th the diameter of a human hair. Pretty small stuff, you can't see it. The bigger stuff, PM 10, that's the dust you can actually see. Does also, irritate your lungs and can trigger asthma attacks. The PM 2.5 is more dangerous because you can't see it. Occasionally there'll be haze in the air and you'll think, oh wow, that's air pollution, or you can smell it because it's sort of a combination of car exhaust chemicals and in the valley, ag kinds of emissions. So, and when you mix those two things together, you get this PM 2.5 that we have. It can be wood smoke as well, other things like that. So, yes, it really does matter. Yes, we believe that the air pollution here is making people with asthma sicker, and it's bringing out the disease in people who might have had it genetically. We don't have to have an asthma test for people. I can't stick your finger and send it off to, who do you send your genealogy off to? Whoever, to find, to find out if I've got asthma. I can't do that, right? So it's a sleeper. It's just sitting there. So we do believe, I think the literature well describes that in fact exposure to this air pollution can activate the asthma. So in people who never had it before, and adults especially, we're seeing a lot of adults. It is kind of strange. Even up San Joaquin County, where the rates are really low, the rates are higher in adults. So that's unusual. Kern County, again, rates in adults were always much lower than kids. You could argue that it's because kids go to the doctor more, so we have more information. Since it's a percent of the total, that's actually not likely. But still, it's so high, and many of those adults will say, I never had it. So how do we explain that? Well, you look around you and you say, what's different here that's not somewhere else? And what's here that everybody experiences at the same time? That's how you figure these things out in the public health world, right? You start subtracting things that are unique because it's affecting everyone. So what does everybody do here and share in common? Not too many things. The most common thing is the air, right? I mean, someone's got something else. I'm real interested in it, but I think we're kind of down to that. Really I don't know. Water, well, we don't, because water comes from different basins all over the place, right? So regionally, you could say that in a local county or Tule Basin or something like that. And if we could put asthma clusters there, which, by the way, we've tried and they don't exist, so you rule that out. So what else are we sharing? There's really not much, Jim. If anybody's got any ideas on that, by the way, send that email to admin@centralcalasthma.org because I want to hear it.
And what
Valley fever? No, I'm sorry, it's not valley fever. Valley fever requires really drastic conditions to exist. So we can talk about that sometime if you'd like, but trust me, it's not everywhere in the valley. So, and it's really hard to spread it from person to person. So.
We got like 3 minutes, so we left one major question and a second effort. How about what should we do if we have it? When we've become aware of the behaviors and also the responses we have, what can we do, Kevin?
First thing to do is get yourself a doctor. I mean, you need to have a primary care provider. All you guys out there, I'm telling you right now, you need to have a doctor, okay? I get it. I hate going to doctors. I work for them. I work with them. That's the right side of the healthcare system. No one wants to be on the other side. That's being a patient, but you need to see your doctor. You need to get a physical, and if you've got these problems, you need to just tell them, because they're easy to fix. But if you don't tell them, they're just going to get worse. So just pitching that out there, because men are worse at this than women. Women, for whatever reason, seem more likely to go and see a doctor about a problem. But everybody should have a primary care provider that they feel they can talk to, they feel they can trust. I always say you should be able to talk to your doctor like you'd talk to your neighbor, you know. Nice. And if your doctor doesn't have that relationship with you or doesn't welcome that, you need to get a different one. But most doctors I've known, and I've known a lot of them and trained a lot of them over the years, want that relationship. They really do.
We've got about a minute and a half, and we left one important issue is resources. We've got some pictures of your asthma impact model. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that in the concluding thoughts.
Sure. So the asthma impact model is just what I said. It's an asthma home visitor program. People can self-refer. Physicians refer patients to us as well. The program is considered to be a year-long program, though we follow people as long as they're willing to keep talking to us. The program is, as you can see, focused at families, but we do single adults as well. We see 1-year-old all the way to my oldest patient, I think, is 83.
Oh my God.
In our program. So it's not my patient, but our oldest patient in the program is 83. We address the whole family. We address the house. We do a home environmental inspection as recommended by EPA. We identify locations and things in the house where there's opportunities for the family to kind of retake control of the situation. We also provide people with asthma-safe cleaning supplies and a filter for their HVAC unit, asthma-safe pillow covers and mattress covers, and other kinds of things that the community health worker might identify as needs of that family. So it really is resource-rich, resource-intensive. The initial visit's about 2 hours, and the best thing is there's no cost to you. So no cost to you, nothing, zero.
I want to thank Kevin Hamilton, the Executive Director of Central California Asthma Collaborative, for being here. I want to tell you to go to the email at admin@centralcalasthma.org or the website centralcalasthma.org or on social media @CalAsthma. Thanks, Kevin. We'll be back another time with another show.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.